Everyone.
Okay, we just started. All right, should we start?
Yeah,
We'll start recording. Okay. Good
yeah,
evening, everyone, or good morning, actually, for those who are in Asia. It's only what 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Steve, for joining us. Especially this is after 5 o'clock. You know, Anyway, we really appreciate that, okay? And everybody, we have Steve Hatchett here, who's the Executive Vice President for Products with Nuskin. And Steve, well, I guess let you talk about your background a little bit, so I won't say the wrong things.
better
All
than
right,
that.
all right, everybody, let's welcome Mr. Steve Hatchett.
Yay!
Thanks,
Yay.
Marguerite. It's so good to just you guys, it's 7 o'clock here, and when you say 5 o'clock, I don't know who in this world actually stops at five, at least at New Skin. We're as soon as I finish this meeting, I got another meeting at 9:30 tonight. So I mean, we're not gonna stop going. We have so many great things to do, and so, anyways, I'm excited to be here. I know there's a lot of great questions. There has been such great work out there. I mean, think about this, by the way, Pat and Marguerite. Think about this from where we were at the beginning of the year to where we are today, and everything that's transpired over this time, and this global launch that we've done with the Force for Good and so forth. I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who've been staunch supporters and continuously giving us feedback, as well as just living the Force for Good principles of New Skin. And 2025, I can't believe it's almost coming to a close, and 2026 is upon us. But I was just talking to Ryan Napierski, and yesterday I was talking with Steve Lund, and we it was pretty funny. This morning I was meeting with my team, and Ryan Napierski comes into my office, and so he comes flying down the hallway, and he goes, Steve, he goes, I know I've told you this before, but he goes, I've done all the math. I've seen all the numbers. I've seen everything that we've done. I've seen what's coming in. And by far and away, this is the single greatest product launch in the history of the company in terms of its potential and what it could mean for our leaders in the field and for all of the people around the world. And I went to his whiteboard. He has this like huge whiteboard that has everything laid out. And he is so excited about 2026. And yesterday when I was talking to Steve Lund, I mean, he didn't stop smiling from the first time we started talking. We talked for about an hour, and he could not stop smiling. He was just so happy about, where we're going, what we're doing, and how we're getting there. And the fact that we're going to have this type of impact on people's lives on a daily basis, it makes all of us so happy here. So I'm excited to dig into the numbers. I'm excited to discuss some of the discrepancies. I had a great conversation with Scott Ferguson, who was a big part of the S3, and he kind of laughs sometimes. He goes, Steve, I can't believe people are asking you about the variation. He goes, we've had that since S3 from very beginning. We used to have to use putty to kind of calibrate everything and do stuff. So he goes, we've come so far from that, but I'm happy to dig into it. I've got a ton of answers and some additional science and some information that's breaking right now. So we're really excited about it. So anyways, I'm happy to dig in. We can go Q&A, or I can go through whatever you want to go through tonight. I'm all yours.
Can you give a presentation, a short presentation first?
You bet.
And some people are brand new, and Asia, they don't have their prism yet, so they want to only the Force for Good, the special edition got there, but the rest of it they have lot stricter rules than USA, so they can't wait for to get their hands on it. But they want to they see the purple one going on, and they have questions on that. So if you could just go through a presentation, and then we can spend time on Q&A.
You bet. Um, I'll do a brief one, and this one I think probably would be the most applicable one that we could probably pull in, and we can go super deep. Um, and if you guys want to tonight, but I'll go into some of the details about what we're seeing with Prism. Now, again, a lot of times people will just say, "Oh, it's Nu Skin. They're a personal care company," and that's true, or a supplement company, but we're number one globally for our devices. And we got there because of our distributors, of course, who shared this with everybody. But what's come with that responsibility being number one in the world, by number one, is the most in terms of the volume of sales that we've done globally, and we've held that for now almost going on 8 years now. And it's quite amazing because certainly there's this category keeps growing, and so usually when there's a growing category, and they always want to knock off the top dog, and that's us. And so, but what's happened with this is we've learned so much about devices and how they work, and how our field can use these devices to help their personal well-being, whether it's skin or whether it's wellness. And so we're number one in devices, and that's a growing category, and we know that. And so we also have this amazing biophotonic scanner that's unique to us, and it's different than anything else. And we have over 23 years of experience in technology, and it's these 20 million data points that we talk about so much that is so important. Now, what's amazing about that is not just the fact that we have those data points, but we just finished, and I just was sent to me earlier today, believe it or not. It's just hot off the press. So you guys are hearing this. We just received this from our science team. It's amazing. So there's going to be a published study you're going to see come out, and it's essentially it's going to be from Dr. Helen Nags, and it's a peer-reviewed article. It has assessing global lifetime skin carotenoid scores 2003 to 2025, and it shows the implications to wellness, lifestyle factors, potentially enhance or diminish health span. So it really is this analysis that we've done. Now you're going to see it out there and published. That's going to talk about this in great detail, and it shows the relationship about what happens when you get a score. This they call it about skin carotenoid scores, and they say, well, that's just one measurement, one analyte, and that's true. It's what it is. It's not necessarily just the one score. It's how that score correlates with lifestyle factors. That's the important thing here. So, for instance, you have companies that come out and say, well, we can do carotenoids, or we can measure certain things. It's true, but they haven't gone 3 layers beyond that, which is essentially understanding how does that score relate directly to your overall health and well-being. And we've actually have that documentation, and you'll actually see it come out in this new published study that we have coming out. We couldn't have had it had we not had all of these global scans. Now, we know beauty and wellness is challenging in and of itself to be the best in the world and so forth, but people are also want to be personalized. And personalized nutrition, where most people have gotten in the past, is they have a doctor that either draws blood, or they spit into some sort of a cup, and then they measure the saliva, they measure something that's inside of our bodies to verify things. And so usually you have to expel something, and whether it's blood or urine or stool or specifically spit or saliva. And so this non-invasive way to actually extract data on the inside of our bodies is so important. In fact, the other day I was talking to somebody, I said, it's interesting. You go through life and you think about the different type of imaging that goes on, and people are trying to see what's inside of our bodies and so forth, and whether you have an x-ray to see if you have a broken bone or something like that. There's very few things can actually look inside and actually see what's happening, because the body is just, it's very unique. You can see outward manifestations, but you got to see what's on the inside. And so the ability to personalize your beauty and wellness journey, predicated upon a non-invasive individual prism score, is going to change everything. And quite honestly, how did we do it? Well, it was AI. I mean, it really was this AI phenomenon, because we could never get the Raman technology that we've been using now for the last 20 plus years in a way that we could get it small enough and respond quick enough and be precise enough to allow it to go into, whether it's a phone or whether it's an actual, like the small prism that we have now. It was virtually impossible until the advent of AI. And so we worked with a couple local universities, and we were able to work with these engineering professors and build an algorithm that correlated the data with S3 to a sequencing of lights that is now called the spectral ray that you are all familiar with. And so now we're number one in devices. We have all this data. People want personalized beauty and wellness. And now we have AI to help drive that. And that is so important. And so when you think about the S3, you look at it and say, okay, well, has it improved? Well, yeah, before it used to be 30 seconds. Now we're doing it in 15. There used to be 2 LEDs. Now we have 5. Same number of photodiodes, but now we're up to close to 800,000 scans per 15 seconds versus 259,000. And then you look at the charge times, the device UI, the fixed Raman calculation, and now we have this proprietary learned algorithm for carotenoid analysis. This is so amazing. I mean, I was just speaking with a group of doctors the other day, and who are familiar with biophotonic scanner, and then also specifically understanding what is happening with the skin and colors and so forth. And they say, Nu Skin really is the gold standard when it comes to understanding and calculating this carotenoid score, which correlates with our overall health score. And it is really quite unique to believe that this little company from Provo, Utah, has helped the whole world, if you will, understand what's going on the inside in a proprietary way that no one else has been able to do. Now we have 2 brand new patents that we have going that are tied to Prism. And then this IO update, this is so important. So Pat, you and Marguerite were talking a little bit about this drift, or this how things kind of has shifted over time, where your score would go up or down and so forth. That's because we've got this so precise now. The level of precision on this 800,000 scans, you move your finger a little bit, you don't have it pressed down exactly quite right, you haven't washed your hands, you haven't washed the lens or used that essentially this nice little cloth that we've applied here to be able to just cover, essentially just go in and just to do this. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just gonna scan. Don't mistake this as a toy or something that can just be played with all the time. The scanner, you wouldn't just throw it in your pocket. You don't throw it in your purse. You don't throw it in so forth. And so what we're finding is a lot of people are building up, a little bit of residue on the lens, or they're banging it around and so forth. And so just doing a little bit of cleanup here, making sure they're washing their hands, especially when you have multiple people scanning on a consistent basis. That's really, really important. The second thing is making sure you're using the same finger. As you can imagine, everything in our bodies is not distributed exactly equal. And so for consistency's sake, you want to stay in the same approximate region. That way you get more consistency with your score. So the focus there is to be able to make sure that you get that same score over and over. And the great news is that we have these IO updates, and we're going to be doing another one here in maybe the next day or so, because we just received another study that we did with our scientific advisory board member, Zoe Dralos, where she led a study to look at the correlation on blood serum levels. So what we're talking about is we're actually taking the blood and through a needle and basically extracting the blood, measuring the carotenoid levels of the blood, and then comparing that to the score that we received when we did the Prism. So non-invasively. So you have an invasive way with the blood to verify the blood levels, and then you go look at the skin carotenoid scores through the non-invasive Prism. And the correlation was as high as, meaning that it's as good as we've seen in many of the pharmaceutical applications and medical device applications. So it is, that's the gold standard, if you will, for all of the medical community and people who are trying to make sure that the correlation exists. So what you're essentially saying is you're saying, hey, you can now, without a needle and without this, deep, you have to use very, very unique equipment, types of HPLCs and in a lab to be able to measure that blood that they're talking about. And we're doing it literally in 15 seconds on this device. And that's the equivalent of a, say a $250,000 machine sitting in a lab that we have over here at Nu Skin, about 12 of those. But you also have to have phlebotomists take the blood and all the other stuff that goes with it. So That's what you're getting with this. So now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to update as we get information in, and as we have that correlation score. That correlation score enables us to get even more precise on the specific amount of measurements that we need with each individual light sequencing. So now we have somewhere close to around, just to give everybody some perspective, we now have on the Prism, through all of the scanning that we've done with the original beta versions, and now with the new Force for Good editions, and even with some of these BR prisms that are out there, we're getting close to over 100,000 scans. Can you believe that? 100,000 scans this year just on the pre-setup for this. And all of that data comes into us, and we're seeing it real time, and it's informing this correlation to understanding what that score is going to be. Well, what does that mean for you? At the end of the day, what it means is when we show these limited firmware updates in the I/O, we can now take this information, drive the algorithm, and then get more precise as we go. So right now, I would say the scores of most people's prisms are edging a little higher than they normally would. When we give the update on the firmware, it'll actually drop it a little bit more in line with what we're seeing on a consistent basis. But we could not make that move until we actually did the validation and the testing through our science team and through Dr. Zoe Dralos. Now that we have that information, we correlate that with the over 100,000 scans that we've done, and we can now make that move where we can adjust the overall scoring system. And so that you'll start to see that come out. But the great thing about that is that comes out directly right into your app and right into the system itself. So you don't have to change anything, you don't have to do anything. The only thing you really need to focus on is this little guy right here in terms of calibration. Just make sure your device is calibrated, it's clean, and that you're able to use it on a consistent basis, and use the same finger typically on a daily basis, and we'll continue to get better. So that's kind of this is the overall hyperspectral absorption model that we talked about, that spectral ray. We took that proprietary Raman database, and then we infused it with the hyperspectral absorption. So we were able to get the algorithm built, and that's what's driven this whole thing. So when you think about Nu Skin, as we started in 1984, our simple concept was all the good, none of the bad, right? That was our whole goal. And at Nu Skin, we want to take the guesswork out of nutrition, whether it works or it doesn't work. We want to be able to stand by the clinical evidence that shows that this product does help people. And so think of the Prism as another ability for you to demonstrate the difference at Nu Skin. So you can actually have something that's simple, it's easy. In 15 seconds, you can get a general idea of your Prism score, which is a direct correlation to your health score, antioxidant score, and then you have products that you can use to improve upon it. So it's just going to get better and better. And as we go into 2026, we'll keep every single time one of you actually scan on a Prism, it refines the algorithm and improves it. So it gets smarter and smarter and smarter. Kind of like when the iPhone started, it started at a certain level. Now it's smarter and smarter. Those smartphones are getting smarter and smarter, and now they're using artificial intelligence there too. Same thing is true with the Prism. It now is no longer a static piece of equipment. The S3 was static. The data would come in, it would go into a big Excel database. That's it. It goes into an Excel database, and then we take that database, and the professors and the doctors and the scientists and so forth would all look at that data and try to make adjustments. With this, we're doing real-time adjustments every single time we do a scan. So when you do a scan there in the market, it flows in and it says it came in from this market on this device. This was the score, and it really helps inform all of this work that we're talking about. So that gives a little bit of a background, Marguerite, that you had asked for. So hopefully I'll stop there for a second. We can talk through some of the other things that we want to talk to tonight, but hopefully that gave you some pretty good perspective.
I think there's some questions in the.
That was a very good introduction, Steve.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Marguerite, go ahead.
Let's see.
I think I remember one question is, how often do you have to calibrate?
Yeah.
2 weeks. So here's my rule of thumb. If, say, for instance, I scored 770. And then the next day I scored 780, and the next day I scored 740, and the next day I went down to 510. That's pretty unique. And if there hasn't been any meaningful change in my activities, meaning supplement usage, foods I'm eating, stress, sleep, those types of things, I mean, it have to be pretty significant, then you typically should see that's very uncommon. You shouldn't see that much of a drop. Now you can. So medical devices are plus or minus 10%, right? So on a scale of 1,000, that's plus or minus 100. So that's what you're typically seeing. And what we're seeing right now is plus or minus roughly 25 to 50. A lot of times when we actually get on the phone and talk to people, so about, I'd say 95% of people are seeing the typical consistent pattern of the scoring. However, there is 5% with these new devices. They're figuring out how to, where to put the finger, how to cover the lens, how to clean, the lens, how to make sure the hand's right, and so forth. What we recommend now is, hey, if anything goes off, just recalibrate. It takes less than a minute, and it comes with this little disc, and it basically just turn it around. You put this over on the top, you hit the scanner, it actually resets, and it sets to the true north, as they say, or the actual original score. So it kind of recalibrates the whole system. In medical terms, if there's any doctors or any scientists or any pharmacists and so forth, they call it tearing a scale. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this, but a lot of times when you have a benchtop scale and you're measuring things in micrograms or milligrams, I mean, it goes out multiple decimals out to the right-hand side. When you're using it on an ongoing basis, you're touching it. Over time, you can get off by a lot. And so then what you do is you go in and tear the scale, or you basically reset the scale to get it back to true zero. That's exactly what you're doing with your prism, because this is such a precise piece of equipment that over time it's going to adjust. And so we recommend, if you don't have any drift whatsoever, like you're pretty consistent and you can see the numbers coming in, you can plan on doing it about every 2 weeks, as what we found with the studies that we've done. If you're seeing a massive variation, then just reset it that time, and it usually comes right back. Most of the time it's user error in terms of finger placement, or they're using different fingers, or it got dropped or pushed around or whatever. So that's kind of the simple one. You want me to go right through these questions real fast?
Sure.
Okay, so let's go down here to, I'm going to start here. I'm looking for score readings. How can we address the fluctuations in the score readings to the consumer? Again, I would go back to setting the right expectations. If you're saying plus or minus 10%, which is 100, that means if, say, for instance, somebody came in at 400 up to 500 and down to 300 is probably a good range. The other thing that Scott Ferguson and several of the science teams said was, remember, color is where you're focused and improvements where you're focused. If you get too caught up in the number, it just becomes this thing where you're constantly focused on the, yes, that's a number and you need to look at it, but the more focus you need, are you getting from, for instance, from one color to the next? Are you getting closer to purple, or are you getting further away from purple? And you kind of look at the number sequencing. That's really, really important. So I would tell people, don't get too caught up in the number as much as get caught up in the color and making sure that you know whether you're improving or not improving. On the second question, typically what we've seen, it's not always the case, but typically we've seen, I would say probably 90% of the clinical work that we've done is the right index finger of this finger right here. Okay. Now, some people's fingers are smaller and some fingers are bigger. And so to cover the lens properly, some people's, they have just little bitty fingers, and so they can't cover it fully. So we say, yeah, go ahead and use your middle finger there, or you can use a different finger. Just make sure you use the same finger consistently. That's the most important thing. Some people are saying, oh, I'm going to go back to the old way with just a scanner. I'm going to put it right here on my palm. And what we're finding is that this is very, although it's a kind of a big fleshy part, it also is malleable. And so sometimes it doesn't cover it properly. And so there's gaps in the sequencing. Whereas here, it's relatively flat. The finger's relatively flat, and you can lay it more across there in a consistent pattern, as opposed to here, you have to kind of smash it on there and make sure you don't adjust or anything like that. And people even put it down, they kind of hold it flat like that, and then they push too hard. You don't want to put too much pressure. It doesn't need, if you put a lot of pressure on it, then what it does is it pushes the blood, right, to the front of that, and it can mess up the scores. Not always, but it can. So you want to reduce the variation as much as possible. Just put it on there, just like you would put it on top of anything, just to kind of hold something still. You don't have to like press hard. Just make sure you cover the lens. So you're here, and you just want to cover it, right? Just like that. You're not like pushing hard like that. You should be just like flat, and you should be covering it up. What I always like to do is I want to make sure that, see how this little prism logo is right here? I don't want to see that. I want to be like this, so you can't see it. And that means that you're resting it over the top of it. So you're almost resting your finger on the top of that, and you're not really pushing down. You're just covering the lens, and you're good to go. Now, my fingers are different than other fingers, and so everybody has different fingers, but sides and so forth. So I do the right index finger. Profile setup. When we change the metric to key and height, weight, no response. I have not seen that before. I'm going to make a note of that. I have not heard that was an issue. So I will make sure if that hasn't been updated, it should be updated. It should go, it should be able to go to the metric,
That's
and you should
Singapore. That's a Singapore, the blue one, the limited edition one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful. I'll make sure that's just in Singapore. Okay. Got it.
Well, we don't
This
know.
is why we do it.
Yeah.
How often should we scan? Okay. Now this is really cool. This is going to blow your minds. And this is what's blowing all of our minds right now. The precision and the accuracy and the depth of this is what's great, and also what's challenging for us, because we're getting so much more information than we ever did before. And again, when you're doing 800,000 scans, what it's doing is it's going through and looking, and it's trying to figure out, okay, am I measuring the right thing? And so it has to filter out a whole bunch of other colors and noise and so forth. And so it's constantly trying to do that. The reason I bring that up is just because I've had people who are in the middle of a workout, like they're sweating profusely, and then they try to scan, and they're saying, I just want to scan before and after my workout. And I think that's great. I don't know that you're going to see a massive shift. You can, because we actually are seeing, because a lot of the tissue, the stratum corneum, is the kind of this dead tissue that's over top of it's kind of the outer rim. And that's a lot of times what this is measuring. But what we're finding now with the depth of the prism, it's actually getting a little bit further past that. And you didn't see that typically with the S3. And so now you're getting visibility to a much more fluid type of a look and feel. So these carotenoids go two places. They go into the fat tissue, and then sometimes they get circulated in the blood, right? So as a result, if it's not circulated in the blood, if it's circulating in the blood and it's also in the tissue, when you get the combination of those two scores, you can start seeing an increase in that. Well, before we used to just pick up just what was in the stratum corneum. So it is now becoming more evident to us that we're seeing more of these carotenoids now with this individual prism. As a result, the adjustment has to come in so that we can make sure and balance this out so that we give you the most accurate reading possible. And we are actually seeing changes, more dramatic changes than we've ever seen before, because this is so much more in terms of being able to go in and look for those carotenoids and so forth, and it's giving us a clearer picture. And so we've seen people move the needle in a couple of days, both up and down, especially going, it's a lot easier to move down sometimes because of stress. Like for instance, Ryan jumped on a plane, and when we were heading to India, and he scanned, and then, after he got off the plane, that's a long trip to India. And he gets off the plane, and you're seeing between 50 to 100 points lower consistently. And your body can have that adjustment period that it's going through. And so recognize that you will have fluctuations. You don't necessarily have to scan on a daily basis. A lot of people are doing that right now. You don't have to do that, because generally speaking, you're going to stay within a certain color wheel, generally speaking. And your goal is to, again, consistency and movement towards purple. That's what you're focused on. So that's the amount of scans. And you can see changes, improvements in the scans when they start supplementation. We've got to be really careful here, because every body is different, right, Pat and Marguerite?
Yeah.
We've had this discussion before, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And Marguerite, you were scoring at a certain level and Pat was scoring at a certain level, and you're like, but we hang out at the same places, we eat the same foods, but you don't have the same bodies and you don't have the exact same genes, right? So you're going to be different. And just because you hang out in the same places and your lifestyles are very similar, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the same score. Um, However, you can change a lot of that by making some adjustments with supplementation. What we're seeing now on a consistent basis is we're closing that gap from 90 days to 60 to now closer to 30 days. And in some cases, we're seeing between 1 to 2 weeks on people traditionally if they're very low. Now, if you're already very high, you don't see too much of a movement because you're seeing a little bit of an improvement, but you're not seeing it degrade in any way. It's staying high, and that's great. And you're maintaining that consistency. Where we see a lot of the movement early on is in the lower threshold. So 0 to say 100, 100 to up to 300. That movement can move, and we start seeing it within the first and second and even the third week, depending on the person. Now, sometimes it still takes 30 days, sometimes it takes 60 days, depending on the individual and what else is going on in their lives in terms of stress and foods and those types of things. But what we're seeing is we're starting to see that movement. So you can actually see an improvement depending on the products you're taking on a consistent basis. And you can actually see that movement within even 1 to 2 weeks if you're on the lower end of the side of the scale. Now, a lot of people say, well, then if I'm already at the blues or the purples, then do I really need these products? And the answer to that question is absolutely 100%. What we're finding consistently is the fact that it may come across blue and purple, but what we're finding is that the body it's amazingly resilient and it can do so many great things. But the problem is that, quite honestly, it's always in flux. And whether it's sleeping patterns, whether it's what you eat, whether it's the toxins that are going into your body from outside and or from the environment that we're in. And so to maintain that level of high. So, like, again, I'll go back to the scientists. The scientists were counseling with me the other day. I said, Steve, make sure people understand this when you do any sort of your Zooms and that sort of thing. When you start to drop, I mean, you can build, 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 build. You get up to a certain level. To maintain at the blue and purple level, you have to keep consistency with that supplementation and that program of whatever you're doing that got you to that point. What we've seen a lot of people where they get really, really comfortable and they get to a certain level and then they stop doing those same principles or supplementation and they start to drop, they start to go down. And we're all aging, right? So typically, if you're thinking about it from somebody who's aged 30 and beyond, enzyme production is starting to go down. You're starting to see some different parts of our bodies are starting to not produce as much as what it used to produce because we're in a different stage of life. And so our bodies are not doing what it used to do. Antioxidant system is no different. It is going to continuously, it's not going to be performing at the peak levels as you age. And so your ability to stay up with it and to be able to stay focused on providing a correct supplementation and foods and exercises is so important to maintain that high score. I've watched as individuals who get to purple and they think, well, I did it. Like it's like the flag in the ground, like the body stays. Once you get purple, you'll always be purple. And it's just simply not the case. You can drop down to literally green and even orange in some cases without consistent daily effort. So make sure we keep that going. I'm looking on here. How often should we scan? I got that. And then mine told me on Saturday I need to recalibrate. Good to do ahead of time if an event. Yes, I love that. Mo, I just love Mo. By the way, I'm so glad Mo's here. I get Mo, you're amazing, by the way. Can I just tell you that? You're just so good. It's just so fun. She is such a diligent, committed person there on social who is just bringing joy to everyone around her. Mo, you're amazing. For me, it's such a great point, Mo, is to be able to go in and especially if you're going to be in front of friends and relatives and so forth, I completely agree with this. Recalibrate it. It takes less than a minute. Just do that work and simply get ready for people to come in. The worst thing in the world is when you're trying to get set up and, oh, it's not doing it. Let me see if I can recalibrate here and so forth. And you do that. And it just takes away from the flow. The science is there. Don't worry. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. And then if there's a major issue, we'll be able to solve it. But and you're backed by so many clinical studies, and you're backed by so much great science. I mean, when you see what's coming out with Stanford, when you see what's coming out with Janssen, when you see what's coming out with what's going to happen, it's going to be the second week of January, and it's going to start hitting all the science publications. I guarantee what I'm going to see on social media is a flood of all these papers that are going, can you believe we're part of this? This is going on. This is the study that just got released. This study just got released. And you're going to start seeing these new studies coming out on PRISM that, quite honestly, when my science team reviewed it with me on Friday, last week, Friday, everybody in the room literally was speechless. They just said, we thought it was going to be good. We thought the data would be correct. We had no idea that we'd have this level of precision and accuracy and this level of science to back us up on this. We knew it was going to be good. We didn't know it was going to be this good. And so then they've now repurposed that, where they said, okay, we're going to submit now to some other groups because they need to see this data too. And this, I mean, some of the most, let's put it this, the best and brightest in the scientific field when it comes to antioxidants, anti-aging, and lifespan are starting to review this documentation that Melanie Riggs and Helen Nags and Dr. Joe Chang have been putting together. And they're just trying to figure it out, because they're saying, wait a second, how is this possible? How did you guys do this? It doesn't seem like this is a possibility based upon this new of a technology. Usually this happens over time, over years. And the level of this information that's come out about the study. So let me give you some ideas what I'm talking about. We are now able to start looking at how people are eating fish or specific vegetables, not just carrots or carotenoid vegetables, but broccoli. We're talking about legumes. We're talking about different types of foods that people consume on a daily basis. And we can now correlate that directly with what the PRISM score is going to be. It is unbelievable. So we can now see what people are eating, and we can already give you a score to say, well, this is probably what's going to happen. The reason we were able to do that is we monitored the eating habits of certain groups at certain levels. And so whether you're, so we did age populations, right? So we did 5 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 50. And we started doing this analysis to find out, what's their score? Well, then we started getting all the scoring ranking over here on this side. And then we went back and said, okay, these guys scored high. What are they eating? And we looked over here and we saw exactly what they were eating. We knew exactly what they were consuming. And this is in different places around the world. So now this goes way beyond where we were before. It's saying, yeah, fish, essential fatty acids, is really valuable for your PRISM score. And they said, well, wait a second, it doesn't have any carotenoids in it. No, that's not the point. It's talking about your overall health and well-being. It all contributes to the greater good. And so then they start to say people who have physical exercise, and they start to see what types of exercise. And then they go back and they say, okay, they did this exercise and they ate this type of vegetables. What did that score? And then they can start seeing the score. It is, when I looked at the app on Friday, and the team showed me the correlation between scores in terms of what we eat, our supplementation, the exercises or lack of exercises. And then the thing that blew everybody away was how important sleep was. I mean, we all know it. We all kind of assume that's important, but the correlation to sleep and a good PRISM score is unbelievable. And this is going to really reinforce the points when people talk about the reparative nature of being able to sleep for a certain period of time for our bodies to do the repairing work that it needs to do. And if it doesn't get that consistent sleep, oh my goodness, it wreaks havoc on our bodies and specifically our antioxidant systems. A lot of people thought that was the case. A lot of people believed that was the case. We've now proved it. So it's different. It's just different. And you're going to see the science come out and it's going to show that data. It's going to show the information. This is peer reviewed. This is not something we did a double blind placebo controlled study on this. Okay. We had over 600 participants in this. This is not something where we've gone out and said, well, let's check 10 people and see if it's right. I mean, this is Joe Chang, Dr. Joe Chang's type of work. It is first class, and it's going to change everything that people, it's going to validate those people who talked about sleep. It's going to validate those people who talked about the food you eat. It's going to validate the people who talked about proper exercise. All these people who've been saying you need to do that, they're going to be reinforced. And then it's also going to talk about the power of supplementation and how that can be one of the things that you can use as a biohack to be able to help your body, because we're not perfect. We're not going to be eating the perfect foods every single day. We're not going to be able to do all the things that we want to do every single day. But for heaven's sakes, we can take 1 minute and put a little bit of youth in our body, and we can do, even these wonderful Elements product. We're starting to see people who are using the Elements product and they're going, oh my goodness, this is changing everything, because they couldn't afford, for instance, LifePak Nano. And they're like, well, can we just have something? And now they're using Elements and they're going, oh my goodness, we're moving the needle in a huge way here. And this is such a wonderful product for those of you who have access to it, and it's coming to several markets and so forth. But I'm telling you guys, this is going to be a whole different thought process on health and wellness. It's no longer just, supplement. It's yes, supplement, but here's the reason why vegetables are great. This is why the foods that you eat are important. So I don't know if you can tell I'm a little bit excited about this, but it's kind of fun. Because, think about this. Think about everybody on this call. You have people, sorry, looking through this question right here. You have people you care about deeply every single day. These people that are putting their faith in you and joining the company, and they're putting these supplements inside their bodies. Does it work? Am I using my money properly? Am I sharing this with my friends, my family members, my parents, my children, my sister, brother, or whatever they may be doing in life? And you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm putting myself out there, my reputation out there, to say, this is a good product. This is the difference demonstrated, measure and go forward. And you now are part of something that's literally been clinically proven. If they follow the process and they look at Prism as a holistic way to go after their business and their health, it's much, much more holistic, and it's going to provide them so much benefits long term. And you are in the middle of it. It's not like you're just going, hey, here's some supplements, take them and hope it works out well. You're part of something that's going to change how the wellness industry looks at nutrition. It blows me away. I gotta tell you, the scientists, this is like Shelley Hester, this is like Helen Nags, this is Melanie Riggs, this is Dr. Joe Chang. These are all these amazing scientists. You guys have heard them, many of you have heard them before and so forth speak. They're blown away right now because they're looking at the science and they're saying, we all hope this was the case. We had no idea that this would be so validated the way it has been. And we're so pleased, and they're just giddy because they're saying, we got to get these publications out to all of you so you can share them with your friends. So we're so excited about that. All right, let's go. Right now in Hong Kong, we only have one product,
Wow.
LifePak, that enjoyed.
That was great news, Steve. Gee, unbelievable.
It was funny because I know it sounds ironic, but I couldn't sleep after I heard, because I was so.
Wait a minute. You're supposed to have good sleep.
I know. But it was unbelievable. It's so good. And then, like I said, every single time. So people who are saying, hey, my score is going to adjust and so forth. Right. It's going to continue to fine tune. It's going to get better and better. It's going to get more and more precise. And you're going to see this kind of tile in. By the time we get into 2026, it's going to be it's going to be so consistent that you're going to love it. But it's going to stay in that plus or minus 2.5%. When I remember USP, United States Pharmacopoeia, is plus or minus 10%. You're talking about 2.5% or plus or minus 25 is what we're seeing in the typical range. Okay. How to register a customer to offer guarantees. That's going to be specific to individual markets. I'll leave that to a market answered question. So wherever your market is, talk to the person that your market. I don't have an answer for that. And then I know it used to be scan certificates, and now I'm not sure exactly how they do that. So I will have to unfortunately say I don't know the answer to that question. Um, let's see here. When I use this S3 scanner, the smoker scanning will fall into the red. When I use the Prism, most people have higher score in green and blue. Even a smoker scan fall in the green zone. Okay, Glenda, where are you from? Or my guess is you're in
Singapore.
Asia.
Singapore.
Singapore. There it is. Okay. So in Southeast Asia specifically, what we found, and this is kind of a phenomenon that we're seeing right now, and we actually saw this in the study that we did in Yatang University. In fact, I'm going to pull this up real fast. It was really quite interesting. It was something you would never guess would ever be the case on smoking. There would be this impact that we would see that would. Long story short, is smoking. The way the prism sees things on the spectral ray depends on the Fitzpatrick, the color perimeter of your skin. So if you're, for instance, depending on whether you're a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, on the Fitzpatrick scale of, lighter is 1 and darker skin is at a 6. Um, Smoking really had an interesting impact on the overall prism reading of all things smoking. So what you're finding is that these are those little analytes that come in and come out that you're saying, okay, we've got to filter out for that. So we now have a filter, what's called it's drift logic is what it's called. And we have a firmware update that I believe is going to go in at midnight on Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. And on that it'll include this smoking score where people would actually have a little high of a score, and even though they're a smoker. And we didn't see that with scanner, but we are seeing that with prism, and we found out why. And it's based upon a couple different things, nicotinic acid and some other stuff that have gone in there, and it's how it's being read in terms of the analysis. And so we've pulled that out, we've extrapolated, now it's cleaned up, and so we believe that update will eliminate that issue for us going forward. But what was interesting, and this is really interesting, we found there were people specifically in Asia. So this was we didn't see as much on the West, but in Asia, where some smokers who were also eating vegetables and so forth had a little bit higher score, and we could not figure it out. It just doesn't make sense. And so the team actually did some investigation on it, and they're going to actually present a paper on this. And it provides us great information that validates, again, what we always thought, which is that smoking is carcinogenic and that it can be very detrimental to your health. And it does break down your cellular walls, and it does create all sorts of problems. So if for all the smokers out there who might be on this call and so forth, I would just implore that you consider the possibility of stopping the smoking. It wreaks so much havoc on our bodies. And you'll start to see the update to that prism score on any way that's smoking. You'll see that happening, and it'll come across in the tomorrow night's update on the firmware. So you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just make sure you have the most recent update on the app. That's it. Okay, let me see here. So we talked about fingers. Oh, kids. Perfect. I love it. This is so good. So with kids, we've seen this a lot now. This, because kids' hands are a little smaller and they're a little less, we actually will go right here on that thumb, that piece right here. We'll also do a thumb. Thumbs are typically bigger, not always, but thumbs are typically bigger, and you can cover the length with the thumb. If it doesn't cover there, then you go down. So you just kind of start here and then go to here if you have to. On adults, it's different, right? So I mean, but for kids, you can start with the thumb and then go to here. That's what we've seen consistently go. Let's see here. A lot of love for Mo, which I completely agree with. Okay. Thank you for all the great info. Is there a limit on total daily scans? No, there's no limit. I just think there's a limit of value. I think you shouldn't see massive amounts of changes on a daily basis. I mean, you're going to have some drift, and I've seen that before, even just in my scoring and so forth, what I score in the morning versus what I score at night. But it's, again, stay focused on colors and improvement. Don't focus too much on just that number going up or down and so forth. I know some people, I'm not kidding you, they told me, they said, I score every hour on the hour because I want to know kind of how my day is flowing and stuff like that. And I said, well, that's one way to do it. I have seen through the body of evidence that my scientists or the scientists here at Nu Skin have shown me, I'm not seeing a direct correlation between scoring more often than say twice a day max. That's what my recommendation, if that. I have a lot of people who do it once a week. I have several who do it daily. It really, for me, I do it on a daily basis, and I have a rhythm. I have a consistency. I like to stay in a consistent pattern, a ritual, if you want to call it that. I do it in the morning. I do it as I'm getting ready, and I basically just scan. That's it. That's it. I just scan, and then that's my number. And of course, it keeps track of it, and it tells me exactly how I'm doing and so forth. And that way, I know, I get up. I'm kind of an early bird. I get up between 3:30 and 4, and before I go to work out, I'll get up, shower, get everything ready to go, reach over, make sure my hands are clean and so forth. I'll scan, and then it'll log, and then off I go to my workout. And then I don't scan again until the very next day. But I scan pretty much every single day around between 4:15 and 4:30. And that for me is perfect. And it's before the blood starts pumping and before I start eating anything. It's before all the other stuff goes on. It's kind of a nice time for me. Now, everybody can do their own time. Some people like to do it before they go to bed. Some people like to do it at lunch. It depends on what you want to do. Sometimes it's just different. But I think once a day is really the best approach. But then I've seen people do it every other day or on a weekly basis. That's fine too. But I think doing it every hour or too many times a day, I just think that's not. We haven't seen the science to validate that that's going to be helpful for you. How can we deal with S3 scans and Prism scan number differences and rescans? Okay, remember, you were talking about two completely different devices trying to do the same thing. Okay, so remember you're talking about like kilos and pounds in terms of metric system versus you're similar in terms of what you're trying to go after, but you're not the same. And so it's kind of like saying, hey, it's a fruit, but there's a lot of fruits, right? So I guess the best way I can explain is this, and we've talked about this so much as our science teams are saying, how can we share this information so everybody understands? Because everybody wants to, those who are familiar with S3 want to anchor back to S3, and those people who aren't familiar with S3 are being told by people who have had an S3, oh, it should be this, it should be that, and they're just take the zero and drop it. And no, here's the bottom line. Prism is a brand new Prism score. And let me tell you why that's so important. Because with these 800,000 scans, we're now looking at deeper levels and more concentrated levels than we've ever looked at before. And we're separating out colors that may or may not have been picked up by the S3, in my opinion, in the past, inadvertently. So you could have a false reading before. I'm not saying that generally 80 to 90% of what we're seeing with the S3 was right on the money. But now we're getting closer to 97%, 98%. And so there's that gap that was there that maybe the S3 thought it was a carotenoid or thought it was something that wasn't a carotenoid, and it didn't have that level of precision. Now you're getting that level of precision. And so the scores are just simply different. Now, on top of that, the scanner could measure one analyte. Okay. And we're doing I got to be careful on this one because I want to make sure I say it the right way so that it doesn't over index too hard. But we believe that Nu Skin and this Prism approach is not simply carotenoids. And I think we've talked about this before. We now have data on several different analytes that we're picking up in the skin. We are now separating out. So when you scan something, you want to look for something, you have to separate the other colors, right? Well, wait a second. What are all those other colors? If they're not carotenoids, what are they? Well, some things are blood, some things are minerals, some things are, well, nutrients. So wait a second. So what are those nutrients? And how do they correlate to the score? That's interesting. So when you got somebody like Joe Chang, who starts to separate this. He said, wait a second, I just separated all this. This is great. This is a great Joe Chang story. It's great. So we're in a meeting and everybody's like, yeah, we had to get all this stuff filtered and out of the way. He's like, what stuff? And we said, Joe, it's the other stuff besides the carotenoids. He goes, yeah, and that could be amazing nutrients. He goes, are we seeing combinations? And then you had all the scientists kind of chime in. Well, yeah, we're seeing a little bit of pigmentation here and here and here. This is like several months back. And he says, you've got to capture every single piece of it. And I want to know every single ounce of what's happening on that scan so whatever you guys conceive as this is other stuff, I want all of it. I want to know what that other stuff is. And I want to know what nutrient levels that are. And I want to know how it relates back to what we're trying to analyze. And so with that thought process, again, only Joe Chang could do it this way, but I love this guy so much. We started digging in and we found a whole host of things that we are now working through this algorithm that we're able to look at. And we look forward to revealing the vast majority of this coming out in 2026 and 27. We're anticipating releasing more information and updates. So a lot of times before, remember we call these SCS scores. So we call these SCS products, right? These are carotenoid scores. Well, here's the difference. A PRISM score is going to have a health score. So let's just say for a sake of argument, we've identified 6 other nutrients, macro or micro. Let's just say we've done that, okay? So now you're not just testing to see if you can see carotenoids. Yes, you're getting your carotenoid score, but then you're also adding 6 other nutrients, macro or micronutrients that come in there, and that informs the score even more. So now when people are saying, but the scanner said it was, we're not, those are oranges, these are apples. I should say it, these are oranges and apples. These are fruit. And we are telling you how much is going to be total. So you're no longer just measuring one thing. You're going to be measuring a whole host of things. That's going to be specific to skin health, hair health, vision. You're going to be able to see things that is going to inform this PRISM score, this PRISM beauty and health score, that is going to inform everything you're putting onto your skin and putting into your mouth is now going to be something that we want. Our goal as a company is to say, can we see it? Can we see the outcome of it? And how relevant is that to your overall score? That's the path we're going down. And that's the path Joe Chang's taking us down, because Joe is so excited about what he's seeing. And the scientists are seeing data, like I just expressed earlier, that is revealing that there's a whole host of opportunities for us to go down this path. We've already proven out the carotenoid story, and now we're getting it fine-tuned. And now we're putting it in the hands of all of you, so you guys can now share it with the world. And now we can update via OTA, over-the-air updates, any sort of analyte discovery that we come up with. We can now OTA that into your PRISM. Are you following me on this? This is like breakthrough, like crazy stuff that we're talking about here, because what's happening now is if and when we actually finalize on another analyte, let's just put it that way because that's cleaner. That doesn't say that we did or didn't. Let's just say we did. And we have that analyte, and we've discovered it, and we can get the level of precision of measurement the same as we can with a carotenoid. And then we're able to load that into your PRISM score and give you an updated score that includes carotenoids as well as this other nutrient for a combined score of a total health score. You can't compare that to a scan. You don't want to compare that to a scanner. That's just 2 totally different things. But you do want to know whether it's improving your health, and we can now give you multiple things potentially going forward in the future that's going to inform that PRISM score and whether or not it's good for you or not. This is going to change again the way people are thinking about nutrition and wellness, skincare, beauty, um, we are so excited about where this is headed. We had an idea that it could potentially do something like this. We had no idea that the amount of data that we can comb through with AI and ML, how fast we can get through that data. Normally, this would take us literally years and years and years of analysis and analysis and analysis. Now we're able, because we have the algorithms built, we can actually see the analysis, see the light detection, put that into the correlation study, pull that back through, do the analysis, find the peaks, get the verification, and then refine it, refine it, refine it. And so what would have normally taken us years and years and years, we're doing in months right now. And it's so exciting. So, all right, let's go through this. Let's see here. Will EMEA get more supplements for Prism? The answer to that question is yes. And the bigger question is when. And actually, I just reviewed an entire we call them here this planning. We have a planning life cycle management and we have PLM system. And I actually literally right before I got on this call, for those of you in Europe, I actually went through every single product headed to Europe that relates back directly to the Prism and when that sequencing of it comes out. I would actually not live past 12 o'clock tonight if I told you what that looked like, because the people would come over from Europe and kill me. And so I won't do that tonight. But what I will tell you is that there are products coming to Europe in addition to what you already have. And we're thrilled because think about this. Pat, did you know that Europe doesn't have youth yet?
I know.
It's like, are you kidding me? How can Europe not have youth? So let's just say
China
that.
doesn't have youth either.
Oh, well,
So,
we have.
Steve, are you saying that ultimately we may be able to use the person to settle all this dispute about what's best diet and that you should have, veggies or vegetarian, keto, or carnivore and all that? Because we are beginning to think that, what you eat will determine almost how healthy or how good condition you will be, you know. Would that settle that in the future?
I don't know that it'll settle it because I
Or at
think
least
every
help us
body is. I think every
show
body is
some.
different, but I certainly think it's going to provide, because it's only one aspect of the total holistic health approach. But what I will say, it's an important one, and I think it'll contribute to the body of evidence that talks about what will help our bodies be more resilient. Our bodies are amazing. I know there's doctors on this call, and they'll tell you that what we've got going on inside of us right now to help us do exactly what we're doing and to be able to do it wants to get us back to homeostasis, gets this normal place. And what I'm saying to you, Pat, is I'm saying what we're going to be able to do is this is going to contribute in a significant fashion to the body of evidence that we have currently on this earth. And you're starting to see that even with watches and everything else, all these intelligent things that are coming in through wearables and such. I think there's a whole host of things that we're going to be able to contribute to this, to say what is really working. And I will say this, the one thing we're finding, and that's the biggest thing, is that every single person is different. No one person is the same, but we can certainly see elements that are consistent. And let's stay focused on those and try to understand whether or not there's really any major things that we can contribute in a general way, so that everybody can have those benefits. And what we're seeing across the board, people generally speaking, I'd say, the vast majority of people, when they supplement with our products, they see an improvement in their overall score, and that generally correlates to an overall better health index.
Mm.
And that's the part that gets us so excited. So,
Well, this is very exciting, Steve. Yeah. Maybe a whole bunch of us may lose sleep tonight, thanks to you.
I literally, it is really quite amazing. It is something that all of us are really thrilled because you do this all your life. I've been doing this for 33 years. I've never seen anything like this. I've not seen anything like this before in my entire life. Not just the a product that's got unique value, um, but how it correlates that value with the science that most people will never spend the time, the money, or effort to figure out. And Joe, and again, I want to make sure it's clear on this call to everybody on this call that I mean, I I thank my lucky stars that I have the privilege of being with Joe Chang and watching this master at work, and just his vision, and he can see around corners nobody even knew were there. And now I don't want to make him too like a god or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are people who have been given gifts, in my opinion, in life. And he has been given not just the ability to be a very smart person, and he's got knowledge and experience. His ability is to say, I can see this and what's in front of me. It's what I can't see that I'm really interested in. And he goes there, and everybody else is just looking at what's in front of them. They're like, well, it's red. And he's like, yeah, it's red, but why is it red, and what's behind the red, and what created the red? And I want to understand the red. And I mean, it's just, he goes so deep on this. What's really fun is that he's trained all these scientists here too, and they're thinking like this too. So when you get in a room with those guys, you think they're arguing. They're not. They're just debating each other at a very high speed, and they're figuring out what's going to work, what's not going to work, so they don't waste any time. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, they don't speak English. They speak scientific. That's what it is.
I just, for some of our friends right there, just because I know we're going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. Let me give you. I just pulled it up, and this is the things that you're going to see coming in this study that they're gonna post here pretty soon. Okay. Dietary status significantly correlated with PRISM. Negative factors, and this is not going to surprise anybody, but think about this. The PRISM has no idea what food you're eating. It doesn't care. It's agnostic to it. It's just providing a color. It doesn't. There's no emotional response or placebo effect here. It's just what it is. So if you got a low score, you were eating fried foods, red meat, fried poultry, sugary drinks, and alcohol drinks. I mean, this is straight from the study. Okay, I'm not sharing stuff that's my opinion. I'm just telling you directly, when people scored low, the vast majority of them were consuming fried foods, including poultry, red meat, sugary drinks, alcohol drinks. Those who had high scores were eating whole grains, tubers, eggs, fish, freshwater fish, dark colored vegetables, light colored vegetables, and fruits. Now, again, to all of us that's been around for a while, we say, well, of course, that makes a lot of sense. No, I got it, but nobody's actually proven that. It's a whole different thought process. Everything's changed when it comes to that. Oh, it's just such an important element to this. And I still have you guys. Are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, I had a little bit of a snag with my okay. Now, let's go to correlation between lifestyle factors. Negative correlation with the following: UV exposure, no sleep. Those two were the single biggest impacts by far. Wasn't even close. So, sun exposure and the ability to be able to, these are lifestyles. So if you're out in the sun with no protection, so we have a product for that. We got
of course.
So I mean, we have some really great products for that. And so you think about it from that standpoint, and now we're in a position where you can actually help that. And then, so again, this is Jitong, and then you go into it and you say, okay, that's lifestyle, and then look at BMI. So when you look at BMI, we found, again, another direct correlation between, your ratio of fat to muscle based on height and weight, was directly correlated to the score. So, meaning if you're able to get a little bit healthier, a little bit more of a normal BMI, get away from obesity, get away from, I mean, this all is very commonsensical. I mean, it just makes sense. And you have doctors telling you this over and over and over again. We've just now correlated the PRISM score, and it directly relates to all of these things. In addition to that, people have liver health issues. We start seeing metabolic issues. We would start seeing, so you can start seeing these things. Now, we're not prescribing, we're not diagnosing, we're not treating, we're not curing, any of that sort of stuff. But what we're interested in is the fact that we're starting to see some of these things happening inside the body, and we're saying, okay, they're having struggles here. Are we seeing it in the scoring? And the answer to that question was yes, based upon this study. Now, this will not guarantee that this will provide you all of your insights on your health. This will not guarantee that you'll always be healthy. It doesn't do any of that sort of stuff. It just gives you data. It's up to you to take the actionable steps that you need to take on a daily basis, which we recommend healthier lifestyle actions such as wearing sunscreen, getting sleep, where you can, reducing stress, eating healthy, obviously. Told you the whole grains, tubers, eggs, fresh water, dark color vegetables, light color vegetables, and fruits. I know the eggs people are going to come after me. I just know it. I'm going to get texts tonight or on social media. They say, Steve said eggs, and we hate eggs. Eggs are bad for you. They're the reason everybody's sick. And, you know, because some people just hate eggs. I don't know. It's kind of the egg haters of the world. And I, you know, I don't have a dog in the fight on that one. I'm just telling you the data that came back from this study. And so don't hate me because I said eggs are a positive contributor to this. I mean, I still don't have any dog in the fight on that one, but that's the data that told me. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Steve. Any more questions, Marguerite?
You know what? I got so busy talking to you guys, I didn't look over here.
Oh,
And let me see if
okay.
I've got anything else in here.
This is an
Vegetarians
hour long
completely.
already, Steve.
What's that?
No, you've been on this for over an hour, so I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, there is a question that I think I just want to ask. Is here asking from Amy about in Hong Kong, and I think some people in Singapore, they come in, their number are very high. They use a new
mhm.
scanner to get 1,000.
That's the thing. So tomorrow night around midnight, there's going to be that adjustment that I was talking about earlier, and
Okay.
that'll
Okay.
flow in. So that'll include smoking and this color variation, the Fitzpatrick model that we talked about just a second ago. That
Okay.
update, that firmware update, will help accommodate for that higher score.
Okay. Great. Anybody else? And then, oh, there's two new. Let's see who two news are. Okay.
Oh, can I answer Maria's question here? I love it.
Sure.
Maria Melvick asked, when there is more data collected, would Prism be able to provide a lifestyle summary in relation to the different color scores? And the answer to that question is yes. And we
Wow.
are so excited. In fact, we already have data coming on that. We've already started to inform this. And so you're going to start seeing that in the app in 2026.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I think that's all the questions that I'm trying to go through.
Can I lastly speak to Amy's question or comment here? She makes a comment. She doesn't ask a question. So I just want to mention because Amy brings a great question up. And I just want to make sure it's clear. Yes, we want to sell more products, but what we really, really want, and I know, Amy, this is what you really mean by this, is you're saying we want to help people. And when people think they're perfect, then why would they try to do anything, right? I mean, why would they move the needle on purchasing product and so forth? And I'm just telling you, I'm here to stay. Like I said at the very beginning, we continue, we never get younger in terms of chronological age, in terms of, going backwards. I mean, I know we can, Dr. Joe's talked to us about this, but my point is this. Our bodies are set up in a miraculous way. The reality is, as we continue to grow older, we're going to continue to have to stay focused and vigilant on supporting our body's natural tendency. I've never met somebody who had debilitating disease who started off that way immediately, meaning our bodies will change, things will happen, stress will occur, lack of sleep. We go through times and seasons. Sometimes they're longer seasons of winter than there are summer and fall. But my point is that you're going to go through it. If you don't know anybody who hasn't gone through something, you're going to realize it's going to happen. Okay. We know the most important thing is truth. It's absolutely the most. And Joe says this all the time. He says, I just want the truth. I just want to know exactly what's happening. And if we don't know, we better come as close as we possibly can scientifically to validate this is correct. So I just want you to know, Amy, that we're designing this to make sure that we have accuracy, precision, and an accurate number. The more data we have coming in, the more accurate we get. So you're going to see this thing continue to go, get more precise and better and better and better. And so why I say that is because the scores will naturally start to shift. And you're going to start to see over the course of the next probably 2 weeks, most of them, they're going to start to shift down, not because you did anything wrong, but because all that flood of data is coming in and we're going to load in the clinical data that we just received in the blood serum levels. Once that's in, that'll reset the numbers. And then we're going to walk into 2026 with what we're calling the precision and accuracy we need to start building this business the right way. So don't worry, we're still in the same range of colors. We're just going from, like I said, plus or minus 100 down to, like, say, plus or minus 10. And then you're going to be able to give individuals really a path to greater health. And I mean, I get so giddy about that and thinking about how we help people and these supplements that can change people's lives. Man, this makes me so excited. So, Pat, Marguerite, I'm so grateful that you gave me an opportunity to talk to all of your wonderful team. And I'm always here for you if you need me. I just think you're amazing. And you're such a testament to what Nu Skin's all about. You guys are such a force for good. You're so committed. You're so kind. You're so loving. And you're such when I came to Nu Skin, I remember when I connected with you guys for the very first time, and you guys were asking me questions. And the way you asked those questions, you were talking about people every single time.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, man, listen to what they're asking. And I went home to my wife that night and I said, these people at Nu Skin, they are just so committed to people. And I said, Kim, and this is my wife, Kim, I said, I am so grateful for Pat and Marguerite. They are amazing people who care deeply about helping other people. And when you're on a mission like that, when your why and your purpose is so clear, it's just everything gets fun. So I don't care whether it's 8:21 at night. I'm where I need to be because I'm with you guys. I'm grateful for you.
Wow. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Oh, I think someone in Austria joined this meeting. Waltrix is how you pronounce her name, Mom?
Yes. Yeah. She's
It's
our
4 o'clock in the morning.
Waltraud. The
Waltraud.
English version is Waltraud. There's a German version too. Hi, Steve. Thanks
Yeah.
for
Hi,
asking.
Walter.
I have just one question. We do
Yeah.
have so much age-lock blends in our cleanser and in other products. Have you a correlation to the score that the blend also is rising up the score when they use it? Because with LumiSpa and collagen, we have seen that it's going up. And so when we do scanning from the outside, will this data be seen in the score too?
Brilliant question, by the way. Love that you asked this. So Pat, Marguerite, do we have another hour to go into this? Just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. Bottom line, yes. And as I mentioned before, the most significant impact to the score. So we have what's called indirect and direct products. Direct products are, like, for instance, supplements, these types of, this is all there. My biggest single impact to my score was Meta. This has no carotenoids in it. Zero, none. But this was my single biggest impact with my score, with my Prism score. And why? Because this has anthocyanins in it, which are another form of antioxidants that are an indirect impact. So it's all affecting the antioxidant. So if the carotenoids aren't having to go fix all these other issues and protect these cells, and you have anthocyanins doing that, you're lessening the load on everything else. Same thing is true with UV index. So for instance, if you go into okay, Radiant Day, right? Radiant Day. So we're doing analysis on Radiant Day. True Face. You put this on the skin, you do the measurement of carotenoids, You do consistency so that you're protecting your skin, which is essentially one of the biggest impacts to the overall free radical creation, because the sun is amazing. It's a wonderful power, but left unchecked and go straight into your skin, it can create all sorts of havoc. Okay. So we want to make sure that we use something that's going to protect our skin. And we see their direct correlation in all of our studies to what you just said, Walter, which is basically being able to use products that are what we call an indirect. This isn't a carotenoid. This is just a protector of the skin to be able to improve the overall score. In addition to that, we saw from sleep studies where people who are sleeping between 6 to 8 hours consistently, their scores are so much different than people who get anywhere from, say, 3, unfortunately, to 6. And the bigger issue is the people who think they're sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, but they're waking up consistently, whether it's BPH or whether it's because they just aren't sleeping very well, and so they think they're sleeping, but they're not, and they're tricking their bodies, and their body is just going through holy heck. And so we've got to help our bodies get to a point where they can sleep at night. And as you know, we've got products that can help with that. But that's not just about just putting another product inside of you. That's about, there's some mental aspects to that. We actually talk about this in the app. There's some aspects in how you go to bed, what you're doing before you go to bed, those types of things. All those things help. 2% here, 3% here, 4%. But if you can get that 6 to 7 hours of consistent sleep, it has the most significant impact on our organs. So yes, absolutely, direct and indirect. And we have now data to support all of that.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for answering the question.
You bet.
Okay. Well, I think we should
Yeah, I think we spend
this because how much longer. But anyway, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
And really appreciate it. You gave us so much information, and this is going to get very exciting.
I know. Yeah. We can't wait for we need more for December. Oh, I know what. One last question. In January, when we order the prism, can we get the whole package, or we only get the 99 codes? You only get the prism itself, or you may be able to add a few dollars and get the
No,
full
you'll get the
prism.
whole thing.
You get the whole thing?
Yeah. So, you'll get the stand. You're talking about the stand and everything,
The
correct?
stand and the beautiful little like a pod.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
yeah. So, yeah. So look at it like this. You'll have, sorry, I had to go steal some stuff that's in here. They showed me the little sample. So there's a couple of options, right? So obviously you're going to have, and I don't know how good this camera is going to be on this,
Yes.
but this is the stand,
Yeah.
obviously, and this is basically it's right here. By the way, there's a little bit of a magnet right here, and it actually helps attach that right onto it. So it's really clean, really nice. You almost kind of snaps in, so it's really kind of. Oops, I'm not doing a very good job before we were up on.
Yes.
So that's there, and so when you get it, you buy this, and this is the first for good edition. Looks very similar to that. You guys have seen this before, most of you who have been involved in that. Okay. And then you open it up, and then, of course, like you said, it comes with this whole kit. So it slides underneath there. The little stand goes underneath there. And then you have all of this, all of the goodies that are in there. That's all going to be part of that carrying case. Now, one thing we do want to do is there's going to be some people who say, hey, I just want the actual prism itself with all the associated accessories that come with it. I don't need the stand. And so for those people, for whatever reason that might be, we are going to offer a separate individual option. That's going to be coming up as different markets are coming out with that at different times. But we wanted to be able, the original BR kit, the people who are serious about building the business and helping growing this business are going to get the full kit.
Yes, perfect.
Great.
I wanted to know. Thank you so much, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Steve. And
amazing.
I think everybody's very excited about this prism and what it can bring in our future. And I'm sure a lot of us will lose sleep, like you said, and our scores will go down. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Okay. Yeah.
Great product.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, okay, since this is overtime for you, I
Yeah.
don't want to get you stay too long.
Okay. Thank you,
It's a
Steve.
joy. It's an
Okay.
absolute privilege.
Everyone,
Thank you.
tomorrow is the last day for our 2026 Farmer Next sessions. And tomorrow night actually will be a Christmas party on Zoom. And so if you have a show, you have a little clip you want to share with us, please do come and share tomorrow. So we shall see everyone tomorrow night. I mean, tomorrow, same time, same place, because it's daytime for Asia.
Same number. Same number.
Yes,
Same number.
same Zoom number.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot,
And
Steve. It's
thank
really
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
okay.
Woo,
Let me
woo.
go.
Thank you so much. That was
Thanks,
wonderful.
Steve.
Steve, that was amazing.
Amazing
Thanks.
call.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Steve.
Let me take a picture.
Thank you, Steve, for answering all questions, and very much thanks to Marguerite and Pat
Mhm.
for organizing this.
Patrick and
Yeah.
Marguerite, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
so
really
much,
awesome.
Steve.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Okay, bye.
Thank
See
you.
you
Good
All
night.
right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.